Welcome to this explainer. You know when you buy your absolute favorite snack, take a bite and just think, wait, this tastes kind of off? Or maybe you've wondered why some new products become instant, massive hits while others just totally miss the mark. Well, it's rarely just luck. Today we're unpacking exactly how companies use advanced sensory science to perfect the stuff we buy. We're drawing directly from Consumer Insight Consulting's specialized training programs to see how ditching the guesswork for actual science completely changes the game.
Okay, let's run through the agenda real quick. First up, the risks of subjective evaluation. Then we'll introduce Sensory Workshop II, break down the workshop agenda, look at a real-world case study with Brazia Urbanek, and finally, dive into the long-term business benefits.
All right, Section 1, Risks of Subjective Evaluation. Why guessing fails in food production.
So let's start with a massive question that honestly keeps manufacturing execs up at night. How do companies avoid failed product launches? I mean, the stakes are insanely high here. Taking a product from a simple concept, putting it through consumer testing, and actually getting it onto store shelves. That requires a monumental investment. And literally one single wrong turn in how a product tastes, or smells, or even feels can derail that entire process. And that brings us to a really stark contrast: subjective impressions versus objective data. The source material here makes it crystal clear. Relying on subjective impressions, which is basically just going off someone's unverified gut feeling, right, is a huge business risk. Sensory errors lead to bad product decisions, a totally noticeable drop in quality, weird inconsistencies between different batches, and ultimately, you lose customers and trash your brand's reputation. But on the flip side, using objective, standardized sensory data, that gives companies tremendous strategic power. It lets them align perfectly with what consumers actually expect and find real, measurable competitive advantages. Moving right along to Section 2, Introducing Sensory Workshop II, the Advanced Sensory Solution.
So how do we actually fix this reliance on guesswork? Well, that is exactly what Sensory Workshop II is all about. This is an advanced in-company training program run by Consumer Insight Consulting. It's specifically designed to verify individual sensory sensitivity and improve organoleptic evaluation using real products. Now, organoleptic is just a fancy industry word for evaluating things using human senses: taste, sight, smell, touch. And this program is custom-built for the real decision makers in product development: R&D, quality assurance, marketing, and the lab and production teams.
Now think about this number, 90%. That is huge. Sensory Workshop II is not about trapping your team in a boardroom to listen to some dry, boring lecture. A full 90% of this training is purely practical. We're talking intensive, hands-on exercises, real sensory tests, and active product tasting. The material explicitly highlights that there's absolutely zero dead theory here. It's totally immersive, and you just can't replace this with an online course. You have to learn by doing.
Which leads us to Section 3, the workshop agenda. Inside the 4 to 6 hour session.
Let's look at how this actually plays out during a training day. It's kept super intimate, usually 8 to 12 participants, just to make sure everyone is fully engaged. It runs for about 4 to 6 hours and breaks down into 3 core steps. Step 1 is the individual sensory assessment. Step 2 is a refresher on tasting principles. And Step 3 is the joint organoleptic evaluation. Let's unpack those. So, Step 1. This phase is all about the objective evaluation of sensory sensitivity. Every single participant goes through sensory verification, testing their taste, smell, touch, and sight. And what's really cool is everyone gets highly personalized feedback on their strengths and blind spots. So you aren't just guessing who has the best palate in your R&D department anymore. After this step, you actually know for sure. It gives the company a real data-backed map of their team's competencies.
Next up, Step 2. This is where we build a shared evaluation standard. It's a vital refresher on the golden rules of tasting. And why is this so crucial? Because standardizing how you taste completely minimizes errors caused by just subjective interpretation. It creates a shared sensory language across the entire organization. Imagine finally eliminating those frustrating misunderstandings between your quality department and your marketing team.
And then we hit Step 13. Actually, scratch that. Step 3. This is the absolute climax of the workshop. Here, participants evaluate actual client or competitor products. They do direct comparisons, deep quality evaluations, and learn to spot those tiny sensory differences that actually make or break business decisions. And because they're working with the exact products they handle every single day or the ones they're trying to beat in the market, the company walks away with practical insights they can literally use the second the workshop is over.
Let's see this in action in Section 4,
Braccia Urbanek case study. Building competence over time. This perfectly shows how the methodology translates to the real world. Let's look at the timeline for Braccia Urbanek, a major food production organization. Building this kind of sensory expertise, it's not a one-and-done event. Look at their journey. In 2019, they kicked things off with the foundational Sensory Workshops I. 3 years later, in 2022, they leveled up with further competency development for their R&D and quality teams. And now, looking at 2025, they're scaling all the way up to Sensory Workshops II for their advanced experts. It just goes to show that building true evaluation experts is a continuous, evolutionary process.
And the impact of that journey is perfectly captured by Beata Sumika, the quality department manager over at Braccia Urbanek. She noted the trainer's practical knowledge, communication skills, professionalism, and engagement were highly appreciated by participants. That is some fantastic social proof right there. And it speaks volumes about the trainer, Agato Markievich, who brings over 2 decades of hands-on FMCG and cosmetics experience right into the training room.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Long-Term Business Benefits, Translating Taste to Market ROI. Okay, let's talk bottom line. What does mastering this actually do for a business? The benefits are absolutely massive. You dramatically lower your risk of unsuccessful product launches. You guarantee far greater consistency and quality across every single batch. You can pivot and respond to market changes way faster. You finally get that shared sensory language across all your departments. And most importantly, you're making your big decisions based on hard, objective data.
It really just boils down to a fundamental equation. Errors in evaluation equal higher costs, messy implementations, and a tragic loss of market share. But on the flip side, standardized processes equal incredible product alignment. When your teams are trained, precise, and verified, your products are going to consistently hit the mark with consumers, and that is how you lock in a serious competitive edge.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought. Are your company's product decisions actually based on objective sensory science, or are they simply a matter of taste? It's a huge question, because if you're just relying on unverified gut feelings, you might literally be leaving your entire brand's reputation up to chance. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope diving into this data gives you a fresh perspective on the absolute science behind the products we love.